Imagine you are, cruising at 30,000 feet. You're heading home from Las Vegas, right?
No, standard flight.
Exactly. You pull out your laptop, connect to the airline's Wi-Fi network to catch up on some emails, and without you ever realizing it, the person in seat 14B is actively harvesting your bank credentials and passwords in real time.
Which is just a terrifying thought to have while you're trapped in a metal tube.
Oh, completely. Welcome to Coding. We are your weekly cybersecurity podcast that covers the latest news, stories, and the hidden mechanics of the digital world around you.
And, addressing you, the listener, we really want you to feel like you're right here in the room with us as we go through this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Today's mission is exploring the constantly shifting boundaries of modern security. When you look at the raw data crossing the wire right now, the sources reveal a really fascinating narrative. We are going to trace vulnerabilities from the abstract, floating architecture of the cloud down to physical military airspace.
Right, the kinetic stuff.
Yeah. And then taking a quick look at how we manage signal control in our own living rooms with a high-end wireless headset. And finally, examining a brazen mid-air hacker attack that has the cybersecurity community absolutely outraged.
It is a wild lineup today.
It really is. We have a massive financial data heist, the U.S. military intentionally acquiring banned technology to defend nuclear bases, and that insane in-flight intercept.
It's a compelling lineup primarily because modern security often fails not at the front door, right? It fails through a side window.
That concept of the unlocked side window is, it's the perfect lens for our first story. So let's look at the massive cyber attack that hit the U.S. loan company Heights Finance on May 7, 2026.
The scale of this one is just staggering.
Yeah, we are talking about data stolen from between 700,000 and 750,000 customers. And just to break down the geography for you, that includes over 730,000 residents in Texas alone.
Wow, just in Texas.
Just Texas. Plus, people across Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina. It impacts current customers, but also former borrowers of Curo Management and its related brands.
Right, which means people who haven't even thought about this company in years are suddenly caught up in it.
Exactly. But the defining characteristic of this breach isn't just the sheer volume of victims, it's the specific mechanism of the compromise. The unauthorized actor never breached Heights Finance's internal loan management system.
They went through the side window.
Right. They gained access through a third-party, cloud-based platform that Heights uses to store certain customer data sets.
And we really need to look at the severity of the payload here, because the type of data stored in these third-party environments, it's often highly sensitive.
Yeah, what exactly did they get?
Well, the stolen records included the expected contact details, right? So names, addresses, and phone numbers. But the threat actors also extracted incredibly sensitive financial information.
Like what, credit cards?
Worse. Routing numbers and bank account details. And on top of that, they acquired government identifiers, meaning social security numbers, tax IDs, and driver's licenses.
Oh, wow. That is a nightmare combination.
It really is. Because once that specific matrix of data is exfiltrated and out in the wild, it provides a malicious actor with literally every single component required to completely hijack a person's financial identity.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because visualizing these cloud vulnerabilities can sometimes feel, a bit too abstract.
Sure, yeah.
This is like putting a state-of-the-art biometric vault door on your own front door, right? But then leaving your spare key, or I guess the master ledger of everything, inside that vault under a very obvious rock in your neighbor's yard.
That is a great way to look at it.
Right, because the breach happened on a third-party cloud platform. Your own house, Heights Finance's internal servers remained completely secure. But the thieves simply walked over to the neighbor's yard and walked away with the ledger.
Yeah, they leveraged a vulnerability in that third-party vendor.
Which makes me wonder, since it didn't hit Heights Finance's own loan management system, does this mean corporate liability is just being endlessly passed down the supply chain?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are hitting on the exact crisis of the modern digital supply chain. The attack surface for any given enterprise has grown exponentially.
Because they all use the same external tools.
Exactly. Modern software ecosystems rely on dozens, sometimes hundreds, of third-party vendors for analytics, cloud storage, you name it. You might have world-class internal security protocols, but if your third-party vendor has a flaw, your customer data is entirely exposed.
And what's Heights Finance actually doing about this now?
They are executing the standard incident response, notifying authorities, and offering affected customers credit monitoring services through a company called Epic.
Right, Epic. But I mean, isn't that a bit late?
It is. Offering credit monitoring after a full identity matrix has been stolen is essentially applying a Band-Aid to a severed artery. The reality for you, the listener, is that your personal data is only as secure as the weakest link in a company's software ecosystem.
Yeah. And that invisible digital perimeter is terrifying precisely because you cannot see it.
Right.
But when you shift your focus to defending physical kinetic assets, the invisible perimeter suddenly manifests as three-dimensional airspace. And that brings us to the airspace over Wyoming.
Oh, this story's wild.
Yeah. Specifically, the challenge of protecting the Minuteman III nuclear missiles at F.E. Warren Air Force Base.
Which is, without exaggeration, one of the most sensitive, high-stakes security environments on the planet.
Here's where it gets really interesting. To defend against rogue drones trying to breach that nuclear airspace, the U.S. Air Force's 90th Contracting Squadron is buying drones, but not American ones. They are explicitly purchasing the exact Chinese-made DJI drones that have faced strict U.S. government restrictions and bans.
It sounds incredibly counterintuitive, doesn't it? Bringing banned foreign tech into a nuclear facility.
It's crazy. I mean, the shopping list reads like a consumer tech blog. They are buying refurbished DJI Mavic 2 Pro quadcopters with Fly More kits, Mini 3 Pros, and Avatar 2 combos.
What's fascinating here is the underlying logic of electronic warfare, or EW, training.
Okay, lay it on us. Why DJI?
The Air Force explicitly stated that DJI represents the most statistically probable real-world threat.
Because everyone has one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you are training base security forces to detect and physically defeat a rogue drone, you cannot use a generic American-made military drone.
Why not? A drone's a drone, right?
Not to a radio frequency scanner. Different manufacturers use entirely different radio frequency signatures. They use different communication methods like DJI's proprietary OcuSync, and they hop frequencies in very distinct patterns.
Oh, I see. So to properly train EW operators, they need the exact RF signature of the real threat. Spot on. Training against a customized military drone leaves your operators fundamentally unprepared to recognize a commercial DJI Mavic that someone actually flies over the perimeter fence.
Okay, the necessity of realistic sparring partners makes sense. But I have to ask a pointed question here. Isn't bringing banned foreign tech devices that are notorious for phoning home and logging GPS coordinates into a nuclear missile base incredibly risky?
That is exactly why they have severe legal and technical mitigation strategies in place.
Like what?
First, legally, they are operating under a very narrow carve-out defined by a memo titled Unleashing U.S. Military Drone Dominance. It allows commanders to procure small quantities of this gear strictly for EW testing.
Okay, but a memo doesn't stop a drone from transmitting data.
No, it doesn't. And that's where the technical safeguards come in. Before these DJI units are flown anywhere near the base, they undergo a complete firmware overwrite using a specialized software tool called Riser.
Riser. Okay, I've heard of that. Does it just wipe the hard drive? It essentially lobotomizes the drone's native operating system. It strips out all the commercial telemetry logging and replaces the native firmware, effectively air-gapping the drones.
Wait, really? So they physically cannot communicate with foreign entities or Department of War networks?
Exactly. It turns a smart, internet-connected device into a localized, dumb radio emitter that they completely control.
That is brilliant, actually. Seamlessly transitioning from the military's need for precise, uninterrupted communication and air-gapping, having the right gear to filter out the noise, is crucial everywhere, even in consumer tech.
Oh, absolutely. The RF environment in an average living room is a mess.
Right. And that leads us to a quick look at a consumer release we've been tracking. The Logitech G Astro A20X wireless headset.
Yeah, from an engineering standpoint, this headset is built entirely around that premise of seamless signal routing.
The standout feature is something they call Play SYNC Audio. Basically, it allows a user to connect the base station to two distinct USB sources simultaneously, like a PS5 and a PC, or an Xbox and a Switch.
And it lets you seamlessly switch between them.
Yeah, with a single button press, alongside uncompressed 24-bit audio and a 90-hour battery life. It's like having a universal remote for your ears in a multi-device world.
Managing that kind of signal-to-noise ratio in a densely populated 2.4 gigahertz environment requires some seriously sophisticated protocol management.
Right, because seamless wireless control is great. But, as we are about to see, wireless networks in public spaces can be hijacked incredibly easily.
That is the perfect pivot, because we leave the safety of our home wireless headsets and we step into the extreme vulnerability of public Wi-Fi.
Specifically at 30,000 feet.
Yes, the ultimate captive audience.
Okay, let's set the scene for the listener. Delta Flight 591 departing Las Vegas, and context is key here.
Yeah.
This is just after the massive DEF CON hacker conference wrapped up.
A plane full of cybersecurity professionals. What could go wrong?
Right, so passengers are trying to connect to the plane's Wi-Fi, but instead of the normal portal, they were met with a network called Delta Wi-Fi Fast.
Which, to the average person, sounds totally legitimate.
Completely. But the flight crew realized something was wrong. I actually want to quote the exact ACARS message, the internal communication system that the flight crew sent to corporate security. It's in all caps, of course.
Oh, I love this part. Read it.
It says, "We have a Paxon that has created a scam Wi-Fi called Delta Wi-Fi Fast. We believe they are trying to scam the Oath Packs."
It's just absolute panic in text form.
Yeah, a passenger had actively jammed the real network to force everyone onto this fake one. How does this even happen on a modern aircraft?
Well, the mechanics are actually distressingly simple. The attacker likely used a cheap, $30 death board.
A death board, what does that do exactly?
It exploits a fundamental flaw in legacy Wi-Fi protocols. See, older 802.11 standards don't encrypt management frames, so the attacker's board just spoofs the MAC address of the legitimate airplane router, and it floods the airspace with authentication frames.
So it's basically shouting disconnect immediately at every phone and laptop in the cabin.
Exactly. And because the devices trust the spoofed MMEC address, they obey. It completely jams the legitimate network. The report said the real network was down for about 30 minutes.
That is a long time to be jammed.
It is. And once everything is disconnected and frantically searching for a signal, the attacker sets up the evil twin network.
Ah, Delta Wi-Fi Fast.
Right. It broadcasts that name with a stronger signal, devices automatically handshake with it, and then the attacker presents a fake login screen. The moment a passenger types in their credentials, the attacker harvests them.
The backlash from the community on this has been just furious. You'd think hackers might find this funny, but no. Jacob Warner from Xscape came out and said this kind of juvenile behavior is exactly why the industry struggles with its reputation.
It's reckless. It's not research, it's an attack.
Dennis Calderon over at Suzu Labs pointed out that this is a literal federal crime. He noted that an Australian man recently got over 7 years in prison for pulling the exact same evil twin stunt on domestic flights.
7 years. That is not a slap on the wrist.
No. And John Strand from Black Hills InfoSec called it a betrayal of the community and flat-out bullying.
Strand is totally right. Doing this to unsuspecting civilians is malicious.
So what does this all mean for the airlines? Because I have to push back a bit here. If these captive airline portals are so archaic that they can be spoofed by a battery-powered toy in a backpack, shouldn't airlines take some of the blame for not updating their security architecture?
This raises an important question. Your critique is totally valid. The infrastructure relies on legacy protocols that lack protected management frames.
So why don't they just update it?
Because transitioning a global fleet to modern zero-trust networks requires replacing physical hardware inside thousands of planes. It's a multi-billion-dollar nightmare.
Wow. So we are just stuck with it for now.
Essentially, yes. Until airlines adopt zero-trust networks, the burden is on you, the listener.
So what's your advice to them?
Context is everything. If an airline portal suddenly asks for your Google or email password instead of a credit card or a loyalty number, it's a scam. Just disconnect. And honestly, always use a VPN. If you accidentally connect to an evil twin, a VPN encrypts everything so the attacker just sees scrambled garbage.
That is incredibly practical advice. So to summarize the journey we've taken you on today, we went from third-party cloud vulnerabilities hitting 750,000 borrowers to air-gapped DJI drones defending nuclear bases.
A huge leap in scale.
Yeah, and then ending with a stark reminder that even the cybersecurity elite can sometimes be the threat in the seat right next to you.
I want to leave you with the chilling final thought to mull over regarding that flight.
Go for it.
The hacker on Flight 591 was likely doing this manually, right? Just as a dangerous prank.
Oh.
But as AI and automated scripting become more advanced, what happens when evil twin attacks are fully automated and deployed silently across everyday public transit networks?
Oh, man. Buses and trains.
Yeah, exactly. City buses, trains, subways, where the passengers aren't cybersecurity experts leaving a convention, but just ordinary people on their morning commute.
Yeah.
The scale of automated credential harvesting could be devastating.
That is terrifying to think about. Well, thank you for joining us for this week's Calm Coding. We hope this look into the mechanics of modern security was helpful. Stay safe, stay skeptical, and keep your VPNs turned on. We'll see you next time.